I can see you now. Let's see the elephant.
Thank you so much. We can hear you now. Let's get back to the meeting.
Yes, but they drew one. I wanted to see the different pieces of elephants.
Okay.
Or the instructions were not clear.
Yes, give us the instructions now.
The instructions were each individual draws a part of the elephant.
Okay.
On their notebook,
You've got it?
Not collectively. Is there any group that did it correctly, individual drawing individual pieces? Let's see that group.
Okay,
can the camera zoom on that group?
My group did. I did the body. My colleagues did the head, and another one did the legs. And you've done a wonderful job.
So how did you get to do that wonderful job?
Well, we each of us thought through what the elephant looks like, and so we tried to read this elephant.
Hi, we did a teamwork. So Boaz did the head, I did the legs. Though we joined, and Abisi did the stomach. Ben did the tail. But we joined it together with different pens. So in a group. Actually, from the beginning you said in a group. So I think you misled us. That's why we didn't do it separately.
Okay, any other group that has done the elephant can show us?
Okay, my group, want to start, I drew the head, and then Doreen followed by drawing the body, and Rosemary drew the legs. You can confirm.
Yeah, that's true.
So all I can say is right now we have what we call coordinated effort to draw an elephant. So there was an agreement of who starts and who follows and who goes next. Given the time, I think we missed the instruction, and so we make the best use of it, what we have. I think the point that we are trying to get to is that if we had each drawn our own pieces,
Are you there, Irene? We've lost you. Are you there?
LDO. Bernard, are we still together?
Yes, Irene, we are.
Are we still together?
Yes, we are. You are very clear.
Good.
Yes.
Can we go to the next slide then?
You are there.
So I do understand that this is going to be the beginning of a conversation, but I would want us to start from somewhere. In the same groups that you are in the same 3 people, still taking care of the social distancing, if you can discuss amongst yourself as the people of Kisii, as the civil societies of Kisii, as organization, what our current assets, and I've actually built up on the current assets, and what our current challenges and opportunities. So if you can spend the next 5 minutes on the current assets and spend 5 minutes on current challenges and opportunities so that we can begin from where we are and see how we can move forward from where we need to go.
So you can use the notebooks that we have to just have this conversation and
Yes.
note down the challenges, the assets as we move forward. So 5 minutes for the assets, current assets, and 5 minutes for challenges and opportunities. After you're done and you present, we shall be collecting those pieces of paper to put a report together, please.
Bernard, you can tell us how things are going.
Yes, we are still on. So are we done?
That's good.
Not yet. Do you need more time? Oh, we are done. You are done. Opportunities and challenges? You are done. You are near. Okay. So put together in one sheet because I'll collect them for us to put together in a report. So, thanks. Hii timu imemaliza. Mko karibu. 2 minutes more, then you're done. Tuko mbali ama tuko karibu? Yes. 2-3 more minutes, then you're done. Yes. How far are we? Are we anywhere near? 3 more minutes. Okay, fine. 3 more minutes. So 2 more minutes, then we are done. So we are all done? Good. Irene, we are done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So I will ask that we listen to each other very well as we give feedback,
So
because we'll
let's
start
get to the
with
meeting.
assets.
Yeah, back to the meeting, back to the meeting, back to the meeting, please. Yes, Irene, go ahead.
So we'll start with the assets, and I will ask that we listen to each other very well. So can the first group read their first asset? What do they discuss as the first asset?
We are
And then we
listening to
go
this
around
group.
listening to assets until we are done.
The first group is ready. Carry on.
Thank you, Irene. The first group had Manoti, Kambuni, and Milka.
The current assets that we identified, one is that we are in different thematic areas. There is also the attendant human resource, which is good. The other thing that we identified as an asset is there is good collaboration of government and other stakeholders and these CBOs. The other asset that we identified is that there is supporting legislation, like you can talk about the 2/3 gender rule, you can talk about public participation, amongst others. Also, these CBOs have past experience in implementation of similar programs in their thematic areas. And then on the challenges is like in terms of
sorry, let me interrupt you. Let's first of all hear the assets.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the reason why I want us to listen, so we don't have to have people repeating. So the next group will only add to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second asset is, of course, the opportunities in public-private partnerships, including having other organizations coming in, international organizations like USAID, World Bank, etc. Also, in partnerships, we have Juakali artisans. Like, basically, we can all partner from the lowest person in the society contributing to the highest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Adding on to the assets that we have, the next group.
I think county government is one of the assets, in fact, primary asset, because we have a close working relationship with it. Another one.
We understand the community and its needs, because we are actually based in the community.
Thank you. The next group we are adding to the assets.
Another asset is we have at our disposal a youthful and well-educated generation that can easily take tasks and accomplish tasks with ease. And secondly, most of the groups that are presented here have already trained and active civic educators, which I think also is an asset. And finally, is the area where we have collaborations, in that you may find that one organization has collaborations with other CBOs, private sector, and other learning institutions, and that one is a strength to our side.
Thank you. Any outstanding asset?
Yes, we have the last group. When you are presenting, just look at that camera, so that Irene can see the face also.
Many of the CSOs have the land as an asset and good established structure systems, especially when it comes to agricultural productions, like using the modern technology of productions. So that's an asset that we are having in the Kisii land. Thank you.
There is a group that still has an extra one asset, Irene.
Thank you. Yes, we can hear that.
I think now, since that it is not the first time we are working with the community, we have networks and linkages, because we have been working previously and we have been engaged with the community. So I think the linkages and networks we have is an asset, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. I've had a lot of assets, and I think one of the biggest one we can all acknowledge is a very learned young population that we have the previous existing networks. We have We work within the community. We know the community needs. All that is assets, and we're going to build on that, because as the LDO, we are going to work with the same community. Now, we are going to talk about
We have left
the next one, the challenges and opportunities.
You have left our group out.
Challenges and okay. We can't leave a group out, please.
We are adding one more, and that is
yes,
political stability and support from the leadership.
Very key. Very key, yes. Yes, for the policies and legislation that you have talked about, it's actually emanating for political stability and support from the leadership. Very key. Thank you. So let's talk about challenges and opportunities in the next one.
Challenges and opportunities, we divided them because we wanted political, technological, and economical. And political, we say there is a secure and free working environment, because in Kisii, I don't think there is much intimidations from either leaders or no, we're very free. Technological, it's easier to convey information, being that nowadays there is a WhatsApp, social media. Economical, it's easier to work with groups. You know, we are not going to work individually. People come from CBOs, youth group and stuff. So reaching that group is economical than when you were to reach one person per person. And then challenges, lack of funds. We come from groups which are not established, really. And then misconception from leaders. Sometimes you go to a place, you want to go and do civic education. Someone thinks you're going to do campaign and stuff like the issue of BBI currently. And there is also personal interests. Maybe I want to go and do, for example, civic education, or maybe something to do with the environment. But because I want to have a post, for example, to contest for an MCA seat, so I'm going there because of my personal interest, not really because of the community.
Thank you, Hamisi. That is the first group on challenges. Are you done? Yeah, okay, thank you. Next group, Irene.
So yes, go to the next group and build on that. Let's build on that.
Yes, on the issue of challenges, we have identified lack of coordination amongst the groups, especially the activities various groups are carrying out. You may find duplications going on in one section while the other areas is left out. Then we also, on challenges, we talked of the groups not being empowered fully to carry out the tasks they are supposed to carry out and their activities. And also we mentioned on resourcing, groups are not well resourced so that they are able to carry on their activities effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Very key. Building on to challenges and also opportunities.
Ours will be based on the social challenges, where you find like citizen involvement in access to information, mostly maybe from the government side, is a problem, of which if there was a way, maybe even the county government or the national government can have portals where sectoral information can be accessed easily, it will be an opportunity for us as the civil society organizations to easily collaborate with the government in making sure that there is efficient service delivery to the citizen. So the challenge of lack of proper information dissemination on the social side is a problem. And on the side of political, there isn't enough resources, if I can say, that are getting their way to the county governments. And in that, as we may be able to we may be empowered to say that we're going to hold the county government accountable in some way, it's also difficult because these resources are not trickling down to the grassroots. And if there was a way that we can push as the civil society organization and also the government to ensure that we have enough resources coming to the county and the same resources are sent down to the village level, then now the common mwananchi can really feel the impact of this. Thank you.
Karibu sana. And if you remember Irene's comments in the morning, she indicated that this should be a very participatory process. So for those people who have not spoken, are the ones who will be speaking on behalf of their groups. Let's not have one person speaking every other time. So we are done with that group, Irene. We are going to the other group, this one.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Robert has mentioned some of our points, but I'll say one on the exposure to use of technological innovations. That's one of the challenges that we have. And there are partnerships, but they're not as strong as they should be because the partnerships happen seasonally. And that's one challenge that we feel is quite significant.
Thank you. Thank you. The next one, build on that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think as a group, we thought that the major challenge that we're facing is that we currently lack a structure for the existing CBOs to collaborate. And we also have inadequate funding, and the current human resource is not adequate. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, no, Adik. Thank you. Any other group that has not spoken?
Yes. I think I want to talk about a challenge on the assets, especially on the political area. The policy making process, where there is an issue of budgeting and public participation. It cuts across the people who are beneficiaries, who are bound to be beneficiaries. They also have a challenge of participating properly. I think the chief officer is here. He can tell us, who is in charge of civic education, how the process goes. I think there's a challenge, how it is done. Then, of course, the duration and the policies that are churned out, even the duration it takes, budget making processes, involvement, it's kind of a challenge. Very importantly, duplication of roles in terms of resources. Even in the development world, development partners, UKAID, USAID, World Bank, they could be running same project, but with the different local organizations. So you get they are doing the same thing, but all these guys have channeled resources to one similar thing. So that coordination effect is also a big challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the team from the county. Yes, Maichua.
Yes, we are all here from the county. From our team, what we've seen as challenges is one is COVID-19. We're not talking about it. The monster in the house. It's actually a challenge worldwide, but again, it possesses an opportunity, which maybe at the time of opportunities we'll share about it. Coming back to Kisii, the challenge that we have is the poverty index. I think it rotates around what many have said, financial challenges. Our poverty index is not good. Another challenge is gender gap. Kisii is a patriarchal community, and the gender gap plays a role from the family, the smallest unit to the highest unit, and it's something that we need to look at as we go ahead. And also the high land fragmentation in Kisii, traditionally an agricultural community, but land is an issue right now. So as we move ahead, we need to look at how are we addressing that. Thank you so much.
Asante Waziri. Irene, back to you.
Thank you, thank you. I think this group has done very well in terms of identifying both the current assets and then challenges. And I like the fact that particularly when we are looking at the challenges, we are looking at it holistically, and we've been able to identify quite a number of challenges. And also, if we had time to interrogate those challenges, also they bring quite a number of opportunities. So it is a beginning of a conversation. This is not the end of this discussion. Appreciating that we have time constraint, and we are going to delve deeper and understand. For instance, when we are talking about gender gap, and understanding that predominantly we are in the Baguzi community, there is to quite understand some of the intricacies of this issue and how, as the LDO, we can be able to address it once it's formed. Someone else actually started talking about duplicating roles, not only in terms of the organizations who are implementing, but also the funding of these activities, whether it's DFID, USAID, World Bank. So how best can we be able to come up with an LDO that attracts funding, that it becomes the basket funder of this initiative to better coordinate? Someone was actually talking about access to information. How best can we form an organization that supports and enhancing that access to information? So there is quite a lot that we can learn from that. Is the beginning of a conversation. And given that we are now at nearly 12:15, I will say that reflecting on this, maybe I can give one person to reflect and say, what have they had as the biggest opportunity for this LDO to address, just from that conversation? One person to reflect. What have you had with your ears as the biggest thing for the LDO to address?
Anyone? Yes. There are two hands, so we give the opportunity to both.
Okay.
I'll go straight. There is a proper coordinated way of running programs and activities affecting the common managers on the ground. Thank you.
So coordination of activities. The next person.
In addition to coordinating the activities being carried out by the various civil society organizations in support by the county government departments, we also need to look at the area of focus where we will identify the problems that, if they are solved, then we shall improve the living standards of our people. So the LDO, in addition to coordinating the various activities to avoid duplications, also to assist in the research and to identify the areas where we need to focus to concentrate the resources for the maximum outcomes. Thank you.
Any
Thank
lady
you.
who is ready to? Yes, thank you.
I'm just adding on to what he has said, looking at the various stakeholders in the room and the issue of duplication. It seems like people are doing the same projects, activities, using similar resources. So the opportunity here is to actually merge those resources to come up with a stronger, more far-reaching project that reaches everyone to the grassroots, and I'm sure we'll use lesser resources. Thank you.
You remind me of the 90s and when we were talking about aid effectiveness. How can we reach the common mwananchi using less resources? And the answer was, we need to be better coordinated. We need to be better focused on the outcomes. So we have measurements, and we need to have a shared understanding of what we are measuring. So those are important. Now, you will allow me that just the 3 people who have spoken have started to talk about elements of the vision of this LDO. And I know that we are going to get to a point where we can have a workshop focused on this. But before I hand over to my colleague, Cynthia, to talk about the process of selecting the interim committee, I want to entertain a bit of thinking for you. So if we can have the next slide, just the next slide. Can you hear me? Yes. Next slide.
There we go.
No, he's gone so far. There.
Yes.
No.
There.
Good. Yes. We are not going to go to many questions, but I want to entertain you and say to you, as you sit there, if you can be able to think a little bit about an opportunity that is coming ahead of us, 2025, that local development organizations have been formed across various counties in Kenya. Currently, USAID is actually targeting 11, soon it will be maybe 12. You are the 3rd in the line, and I agree with Daktari that we can even overtake the others. But if you were given a chance in 2025 to be part of the council of the local development organization meeting in Nairobi, and you've been able to speak to the conference and you're speaking to the media about what you've been able to achieve in Kisii, what kind of things would you say? What kind of things would you say? And I'll ask that you go to the next slide. Next slide. So these are the questions that I wanted you to work on. And if we are going to work on, we would need a full hour. But this is sort of a homework that I would want us to carry with us, to know that we need to get to a point where we can talk about that success. So for instance, if I may ask someone to dream with us a little bit, what kind of things do you think in 5 years we'll be talking about as the Kisii LDO? If I can have someone dreaming with us, just a little bit.
Anyone?
One person?
Anyone who is dreaming? Any dreamer? Sorry? Oh, okay.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is someone. Good. Dream with us a little bit.
So maybe if I can start, first outcome is an empowered citizen who can easily access information and act on it, making independent decision in matters development and matters governance and democracy. Thank you.
Very clear. I keep on talking about Wajiko. Maybe I need to start talking about Nyamboke. It's a very empowered person on the ground who can be able to articulate issues and be able to understand what they need and communicate it. Very, very clear dream. Any other person willing to dream with us?
Yes, there's a
How does
dreamer.
success look like?
Yes, please.
My name is Ruth. I dream to see a society that has a shift, development even at the grassroots, not leaving anybody, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what standards of life are. So I envision a better and happier society.
Wow.
Back to you, Irene.
Development reaching the grassroots and leaving no one behind. And that means that there is very clear, deliberate process of resourcing and ensuring that resources are reaching to the grassroots. It also entails that we cannot remain at county level. We have to go to the ward and the village. And some people talk a lot about bottom-up in theory, but this is meaning practically there has to be that bottom-up approach. And the third person, dream with us here.
There are two more.
Thank you. I believe
Yes.
all in all, by being empowered, I think the poverty index will have to reduce.
Very tangible. You do believe that a reduction of poverty, so improvement that can be touched. The other person?
The last one.
Nataka pia niote. I'm dreaming to be to see structures done the right way, sababu kuna vitu vinafanya vile haifai kufanya. So that's what I'm seeing the next, not even 10 years, even 2 years. I also want to I think when Mora or Wanjiko or Mondi, as we said, will know that it's their right. You know, some people don't know that it's their right to question either the county or national government. So for them to know that it's their right to close check what the government does, I think itakuwa ni vizuri. So I'm seeing community kikuwa changed kabisa.
Thank you. And I think also I may add that the community will also be able to question even us as development organizations, even the LDO and what they're doing. So we are able to be accountable to the community as well. So, so that is a bit of dreaming. And I will say that I will skip the second one and ask the third one. If we are the organizations that are at the table here, the organizations that are at the table, we have thousands of organizations in Kisii. We have had the opportunity to sit around this table and discuss the formation, the co-creation of the LGO. So the question then, what is our role as leaders of Kisii LDO in creating and inspiring these outcomes and changes? So what is our role ourselves? If I can have 2-3 people contributing. So the figure pointing back to us. What is our role ourselves?
The first person.
Yes, the role of the proposed LDO is to create a friendly and a conducive environment so that all actors, who include civil society organizations, the state actors, and groups in the grassroots level to be able to carry out their activities effectively.
So as leaders, we have to create that conducive environment in which all the actors feel they are welcome to participate in development, as well as be able to be enabled to actually participate and implement activities effectively. Thank you. Someone else pointing the fingers back to us as the leaders of the LDO.
Thank you. I'm Rosemary. I think one of our roles would be to create a responsive structures, systems, and approaches that will be able to help the LDO to deliver the visions that we've just talked about.
Yes, it is our responsibility to come up with clear structures that enables the LDO to achieve the dreams we've just shared. Yes, I can see another hand.
Our role as leaders of this Kisii LDO, first and foremost, will be creating linkages to even more civil society organizations to bring them on board. First, for inclusivity, and secondly, to promote and spearhead more mobilization so that many people can be reached through our intervention of coming together as the Kisii LDO. Thank you.
Thank you. That word, we haven't spoken about it. We have said that no one is left behind, but we are actually talking about being inclusive, making sure that we can reach out to more civil society organizations to actually be more inclusive. It is our responsibility as a leader. I'm still welcoming some views. So I saw a hand at the back.
Yes. Carry on.
Yes.
I'm also here to activate the process to the fellow group members and community on decision making.
So the first word got lost on me, sorry.
Activate the process to the fellow group members and community on decision making.
Activate the process. That means you're communicating what you're learning. You're communicating back from this meeting, what you covered. You are ensuring that it is your responsibility to keep community posted. And I must say that that is one area we are struggling with some of our colleagues in other counties. When they come to meetings, they get to be advanced and then they come back and say, we need a meeting with our consortium. Well, the assumption is that after you've been to such a meeting, you're communicating back. It's our responsibility to compile the reports and share back with you, but it is the responsibility of you as leaders to communicate back to your consortium and to your networks. Very important. Any other person? I don't want to close anybody. There is one area that I will ask. Yes, please. I see somebody ready to share. That's Madam Edna.
It's coming at a time when the whole world is fighting with COVID. I believe the other LDOs maybe were formed before. So our role is going to be, and what we are going to be answerable to community is that we were able to look at the cracks and the gaps that COVID has exposed. We use them as an opportunity to create a more resilient organization that is going to answer them and give them more sustainability. Gaps to do with the inclusivity, which members have said. We're going to come up with an organization that is people-centered, that is going to look at the grassroots, that is going to be more coordinated, because you look at the period we are right now of COVID, where different organizations are there trying to address the issues, but you find that they're not coordinated. A comes doing the same thing, B comes doing the same thing. So the LDO is going to bring more coordination, and then the reach out is going to be more expansive and more reaching. The issue with economic gaps, the issue with technology, I believe that we're coming at the perfect time to address all those gaps and cracks that have been exposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Very key points. Opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis, this is a well thought and inclusive statement, having heard all of you. So I'm not going to repeat, but I'll try to be inclusive. Our role majorly, and our means civil society and the entire team that is here and those ones who are not here, is to be a driving force behind this wheel of success by laying an institutional framework that is well coordinated, accountable, transparent, inclusive, leading to an empowered citizen and a developed society, with the baseline being grassroots level. Thank you.
And the last one, Irene. Ruth,
Thank you.
you have the floor. Oh, it has been said. So back to you. Oh, there's a hand here. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This is Jeremiah from Boda Boda. As now we are talking, we are representing many people in the community. The major and the key thing in our society, integrity, spirit, to implement the program is a major issue. So as leaders, let us be integrity and be God-fearing.
Wow. Yes, we needed to hear that. Leadership with integrity. And we are going to talk a lot about this as we move forward, as we form this organization. You will allow me to say that as a group, we will have a more elaborate workshop to envision the future. And this is going to be homework for you to think through those three questions, or through those areas, 3 areas. And also, as we think through them, is to appreciate that the role that we have is a critical role to co-create together, to work together to form this organization. And one thing I've heard very clear is that you are not shying away from the challenge of being in the leadership process, of being able to discuss, of being able to listen, of being able to mobilize, of being able to bring together, understand the gaps, be able to plan for the gaps. And based on the fact that we are many, we need to then go to the next activity where we can discuss how to bring the leadership of this group together in what we are calling the interim committee. And the interim committee discussion is going to be led by Cynthia Onyango. As we try to locate Cynthia, maybe perhaps we can have the next set of slides. There is a slide that is talking about the roles and responsibility of the interim committee. And I thank you so much for your active participation. So go to the first one. Cynthia, are you on?
Thank you so much, Irene.
Bernard?
Thank you so much for that session. I think we are doing retrospection, looking back at what we managed to do, and also dreaming for the future of this great county of Kisii. So next, it's more critical that as we move forward with this process, and we continue internalizing this conversation, and as we look forward to having a more concrete discussion around how we wish that this LDO will look like, I'll invite Cynthia. Cynthia will take us through the self-interrogation, looking at the individuals that we need to see leading the process of the co-creation and making the Kisii LDO a reality. So Cynthia, are you online? Let's appreciate Irene as we are looking for Cynthia. She's done a great job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Irene. Cynthia, are you there? Okay. Daisy, can you look for Cynthia? Are you there, Daisy?
Yes, I'm here. Let me talk to her.
Sorry? Yes, kindly reach out to her. So we are left with two critical sessions. The one for 11:15 to 12:30, we are still behind our scheduled time. Then after now, we discuss about the role. Then we have the selection. I think the program will be lighter because we'll only need to discuss about the next steps moving forward. Have we got Cynthia?
She's trying to join.
Okay, please.
Bernard.
Okay, thank you.
You can have an energizer.
Who can lead us in that? Daktari, karibu sana. We are happy to have you, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much, Bernard. My dear colleagues from the civil society and the county government, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jacqueline Nyanga. I'm a medical doctor by profession. I work at Kisii University, but for this forum, I represent Kisii County Lions Club as the current club president. So I'm happy that the Aga Khan Foundation gave me an opportunity to highlight some of the names I've worked with for the past 6 years, and I'm happy that I see most of you actually made it here. When they told me that dealing with Waziri Edna, and someone had pointed my name that I work with a consortium of NGOs, I was happy that finally the work of 6 years has actually paid off. That if we get an opportunity to sit down and not compete in our interests, such that I have empowering activity on one end, and because my colleague has had, my organization is running a PAD affair, I run and I also start another one on the side, so that at any given time, the stakeholders don't know where to go. So it became a game. But if we can all put our heads together and empower our community, because this is where we come from. I think all of us, we are daughters and sons of the soil. We are not tribalists, but the truth is, with devolution, which saw some of us leaving county governments to come back to what we call home, where our parents left in the 1970s, it is good that whatever happened then, and they went to Nairobi, we are back with our education to help my grandmother, my aunties and uncles back in the village. Remember, the problems are at the village. The solutions lie there in the village. What organizations like Aga Khan, USAID, PEPFAR, all these people are trying to just steer us in the right direction. They are not here to now pay our rent, our electricity bill, build us houses, but no, they are here to create opportunities. I'm sure if Waziri Edna called for this meeting, most of us wouldn't have come, but because it's Kina Bernard, we have come. So let's Aga Khan do their role, but remember, we are not here to compete. Our problems are the same, whether you're in any sub-county. I am from Vovasi, I'm married here in Nyariba Richache, but I know, like my predecessor, Roslyn here, the former president of our club, from Bonchari, her problems are the same. Women are spending hours looking for firewood and water, gender-based violence, poverty, alcoholism. So we are not here to compete, because eventually all of us right now are in at least 10 WhatsApp groups contributing for either a funeral, a hospital bill, for cancer, someone who is supposed to go to school, and looking for pads and basic needs. So our problems as we sit here are all the same. Our names might be
Cynthia to join.
Bernard,
She's
Cynthia
on.
is online.
Oh, Cynthia.
Yes.
Maybe we can stretch.
Yes.
We've been sitting for quite a while.
That will be very.
Yeah, let's just stretch, then we start. So just stretch. The session is supposed to take 1 hour 15 minutes, but I know Cynthia has realized that we're running short of time, so she'll try to compress the presentation as much as we can, and we carry out the other process as quickly as we can, but we do it the right way. So let's sit, and karibu sana Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Really appreciate and really happy to be part of this process. Bernard, if you kindly could put up my presentation.
Yes, please.
Or could I share
Patrick.
it from this side?
Yes, yes. Patrick is doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And really glad to be part of this process and hearing some of the insight. Jackie, thank you so much. We could see the passion from, just your talking, and we see the drive that is there and the zeal. And I'm really hoping that, through this process, we can be able to bring and support the civil society in Kisii to come together and address these challenges and issues, as well as take, the communities in Kisii County to the next level. So my session basically is thinking through how do we get to having an interim steering committee that can help us to get to that LDO structure that we envision. So basically, I'm going to quickly touch on some of the roles and responsibilities of our steering committee, but I want us to make this as open and more of a discussion so that you can build on this, because this is a generic roles and responsibility, and we want to have roles and responsibilities that can work for Kisii County, and not roles and responsibilities that have been brought in by us. So as much as possible, as we go through this, I will suggest that you be free to add in, taking notes and share with us, with Bernard, so that this can be incorporated once the steering committee is in place. So from our end, we see the steering committee as basically providing guidance, vision, and oversight. And this basically looks around, establishing that common agenda. Irina's just taken you through, identifying some of the challenges and assets, but also you've been able to dream about the future. So we need to come together on addressing what agenda do we need to, take forward so that we can reach to that dream that we have envisioned. So the steering committee, will be at the forefront to helping to establish that agenda, working closely with different stakeholders at the county level, but more so bringing together that, all the civil society organizations onto this platform. We see them also providing, being the champions and to really take this initiative forward, where we are not now competing, but we are collaborating and working together towards local development. And definitely, as sitting in that level in leadership, we're also thinking around the different organizations' goals and mandates, and seeing how those come together onto this common agenda philosophy that we want to take on board. And with all that, has to be backed with good evidence and data. So as much as possible, this steering committee will need to take into consideration some of the information. Kisii County is quite unique. It has some very unique assets. It has some very unique stakeholders and priorities. And so to make effective decision, it will be very important that also this team can be able to harness, collect information, data from the different civil society, from the different actors, from the county government to actually help to, drive that local agenda. Secondly, a key role and responsibility for the steering committee's oversight. And here we, thinking around just the interaction between different stakeholders in trying to build that movement of civil society actors. But at the same time, which is critical and very important, is the community engagement. We've been talking about the Onjikos and the Omondis. How do we get them on board to be able to be able to articulate their priorities, but also be in the decision-making table to push some of the agendas that we think are critical for Kisii County. At the same time, be good also to see how shared measurements, as you mentioned, different organizations are bringing different expertise, different resources, different initiatives that are all geared towards a common agenda. So therefore it will be important as the steering committee comes on board, how do we measure that success, that shared measurement to measure the success in terms of building the LDO, but at the same time having an LDO that is effective. Thirdly, and most important that we've seen also in our work in the other counties, Nakuru and Makueni, is the active and regular participation. This is very critical for the steering committee, that they have to be in any given time be able to participate regularly in scheduled meetings, whether it's in person or virtually, and actively being engaged during those discussions, by listening and being respectful. So it's important for us to understand that we're bringing in different actors with different personalities. Group dynamics definitely will take effect as you try to coalesce into one one platform that engages in this action. Can you hear me? Sorry, Bernard, are we together? Or did you lose me?
Yes, we are you are very clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just wanted to reach out and make sure. So it's really important for us as we're thinking about active we're thinking about the steering committee. There has to be that participation and commitment element into and that steering committee. The second slide. So when we're thinking about traits of a steering committee, and I thought it would be very important to bring that out, here, so that as we are also going through the process of selecting and bringing them on board, we're also using this at the back of our minds in terms of who do we want to be part of that steering committee. And here, the positive traits and the ones that we've seen also critical in the different support we've been having in the different counties are, for example, a steering committee has to be a decision maker, so they have to be, be able to drive, relevant system change. Because here, when we are bringing civil society organizations together, when you're thinking about the system, when you're thinking about local development, we need someone who can definitely be able to make decisions and not really, take time to process information and and really can't stand up for some of the information, some of the decisions that they are thinking are critical for Kisii County. They have to be representative. Kisii's county brings a different people from diverse ethnic groups, different communities and different situations, whether they are marginalized. So we have to think about inclusivity, when we're thinking about, bringing the steering committee members together. We also need to have someone who is influential and really a champion that can really sell the vision and really influence other people. When you think about leadership, it's more about influence. And so you want to bring more civil society actors together. You want to bring in the communities together. You want to get the buy-in of the county government, the private sector onto this platform for engagement. So you need someone also who can be influential and also champion the work that you want to do in Kisii. We also need passion and urgency. You need also to have someone who is has a focus for the greater interest and thinking about Kisii County as a whole, rather than different sub-counties of different villages. So it'd be good to think about that. Someone who has commitment and also lived the experience. I can't be in the steering committee because I don't understand completely Kisii as much as I'm a Kenyan. So it would be important for us to also look at people who have lived and understand the context and the landscape and the nuances that come with Kisii County. So the ones that are in red are basically just things that to look out for. So you're not looking for someone who can't make the decision and just looking for consensus, someone who is always in disagreement, or someone who cannot listen, or people who come with their egos, because you're bringing different actors, different CSOs, different people with different agendas and mandates. Ego is one of the biggest things that we face as civil society actors. We want to be known and seen, so we need to have people who can lead others. We don't want people who can polarize, and also thinking about, time and effort for people who are too busy to really provide with us that support. So lastly, just a quote that I wanted us to also to see. Bernard, the next slide. Or is this the?
Yeah, no, it's there. It's coming. Patrick.
Yeah. So this quote I really like, and I thought would be good to share, is the task of a leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. And that's the dream that you've been talking about. So the task of the steering committee is to see how they can, bring the people together onto this platform and create this LDO. And it's a place where we've not been, we have never engaged in. And so it has to be, leaders who can really influence others. So just have that at the back of our heads as we go through the process. And I don't know if there are any additions before we move forward to the next step, or any clarification or questions.
So, any question, comment from Cynthia's presentation? Any question? Any comment? Okay, there's one.
I don't know whether someone from within, what that might mean, because it will be comfortable maybe to have someone who is in Nakuru, but is committed and is trustworthy, someone we feel is comfortable. I think it will be okay if we give him the chance. Another thing, there are those organizations which came together, maybe had a concept, and maybe it was accepted. I think from last Zoom meeting, Madam CEC suggested a very good thing. She said those groups which were there, it's good maybe to be given at least some priorities. Maybe we have one from those organizations, and then we'll have these others. Because if you don't even have a concept of what you're going to do, or what you wrote, it's hard maybe to be tasked to continue doing what you even don't understand. Those two.
Mine will be just trying to jog our mind a bit on the last quote. On I don't know whether Patrick, you can project the last quote kindly. The last slide. Thank you. The task of a leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. I don't know why I tend to disagree with the statement, because there are some leaders who may come wapate tuko economically fiti, the next thing una realize wameturudisha kwenye hatujawahi kuwa. So I believe we should add something like from where they are to where they have, like, to a better place that they have not been, kindly.
Thank you. It's a nice one. So, I suggest that Cynthia, we take a round of questions, then you can respond.
We are talking about interim. I would wish to know at what stage are we going to have not just interim, but the real thing, the real McCoy. The second issue relates to some of the traits that have been given for somebody to qualify as a steering committee member. Colleague of mine has asked one from the other end. What I want to echo here is I'm hoping that these are just the general guidelines, because I do not think we can have somebody who would have all those traits, so that we don't say we are going to eliminate everybody who does not have all those traits. It's just an indicative list of some of the desirable traits. And I think since we are co-creating, we will discuss and agree jointly on how to go forward. It's not that unless you have all those, you cannot be considered. However, my major question here is, if we are talking about interim, at what stage do we talk about the real steering committee that is going to drive the process forward? Thank you.
I think I have the mic. Thank you, Daktari. I've heard you. I have no intention to respond to that, but I just wanted to make a general comment and observations after the presentation from Cynthia. The whole issue of leadership, selection, appointment, majorly it serves as a challenge or a breakthrough. If we get it right, even from the interim level, we'll be good to go. If we get it wrong, we'll be done. I'm not sounding some warnings, but it's just an observation. Good presentation. These are well thought traits. If they can be shared to some of us, so that we build on a few that we are not good at, we'll be grateful. Thank you.
Any other question?
Sorry, there is something also forgot. Someone asked when the interim will cease to be interim. I wanted to add something also. Maybe someone is an interim. He wishes to step down for another position, for example. Maybe because what I saw, the interim is going to coordinate the process, right? Maybe I'm an interested party for another position, for example, maybe board or somewhere. Can I drop down from the interim, maybe the chairman or the secretary, to go for a board, for example, or step down? Or if you are an interim, you just stick there.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, back to you.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you so much, everyone, for the questions. You know, I was told that when you are talking and working with people, if they ask you questions, then people are listening. So I'm really glad. Thank you so much. So probably the first question around, the applicants, the first 3 applicants that were selected, and if they have a role to play at this point and should be considered. And well, I will say it's, yes, we definitely want to work also with the 3 applicants. And Irene, please come in on this if I might say something that might not be correct. The 3 applicants, but at the same time, we want to bring other civil society organizations to work together. Because from what you had during the presentation is that at this first stage, we want to support the civil society organizations to come together to actually now create the LDO itself. So for that process to happen, then you need other civil society actors coming together or buying into vision, going through social mobilization, reaching out to more communities. Because remember, civil society actors are there to serve their communities. So civil society actors have to go back to the communities, let them know about this, because for them to effectively participate, they have to understand the vision. They have to understand why they need to be part of this process. We also need that the same actors to actually reach out to other stakeholders. So as much as possible, working with the three organizations, but we also want to bring others on board to actually, support with that process. Secondly, around the interim, I mentioned interim steering committee, and the reason why I said interim steering committee is the mere fact that this is going to be a committee that is going to lead or champion the establishment of the LDO. So I believe from your discussion, and the team can also build on this, is that the steering committee will be there for a specific period of time. Basically, thinking through how do we do the LDO establishment and formation, the registration, how do we bring members on board, how do we bring different actors on board, who will we need to work with, what's the governance structure, get that established, and then and then dissolve to actually now get the team on board, whether you're going to become a trustee, it's an NGO, if it's a network. So all that needs to be, we need to have a leadership that is going to take us through that process as we start forming the LDO. So that's the reason why I said an interim committee, and an interim committee is to support the other civil society actors in the region to.
We've lost you, Cynthia. Cynthia.
And at this point in time, as you step down. Sorry, Bernard, did you lose me?
We lost you. We lost you at one point. From the point of bringing civil society together. Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that the interim committee will be bringing the civil society actors together, and really helping and building the journey towards formation of the LDO. The interim committee ceases to exist once the LDO comes in place, whether it's registration, whether as agreed by civil society actors in Kisii, whether it's bringing the board of trustees, whatever the shape and form the LDO structure takes place. Once it's formally established, then the steering committee will have to transition its roles to the committee or the steering committee that will have been established, or the backbone organization, or whatever shape and form the LDO will look like. So yes, you can step down from the steering committee and become either a member as a CSO, or you could decide to become whatever shape, whether if it's a board of trustees that will be there, whatever will be agreed on by civil society actors in Kisii, then you can step down to become that. But otherwise, just to mention, the steering committee supports to form the LDO, and its roles and responsibilities end when the LDO has been established. On the traits, those are general guidelines. I totally agree, there's nobody who will have all those traits. It is us to decide who the steering committee members should be, and what sort of traits, capacities, competencies they are bringing on board to help us to take us there, where we want to go in terms of the LDO creation process. So those are just general guidelines and elements that we've seen could be critical as we are thinking through. The way the steering committee will be composed, it's for this team that is currently here, the 25 organizations that are currently here, are the ones who are going to decide what are the criteria for selecting the steering committee, who will be in the steering committee, whether it's through election, whether it's through selection, and this is the next step after this discussion. In terms of the last question around, changing the quotes, definitely we can change it and shape it and make it Kenyan. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Bernard. I hope I've answered all the questions.
Yes, you have.
Thank you. Cynthia
Irene?
had asked me to. Bernard, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can, Irene. Go ahead.
Yes, Cynthia has asked that I comment about the three on the table and the three organizations that are pre-selected. Yes, in our discussions, we've always said that we have the three, and then we are going to invite broader stakeholders to be part of this process. Again, because this is an interim process, is to appreciate that we are working with the ones that already had submitted their concept, but we also appreciated that we have so many others with views on how this process can be undertaken, and therefore very welcome to have other members brought on board. And that's why we've been working with you and talking with you in the last few meetings. So that is the process that we hope that is going to happen. Again, it is you who will decide how many members you want. Just giving an example, in Nakuru, there were 14 pre-selected applicants, so the 14 made up the interim committee. In Makueni, it's different. There were pre-selected applicants, but there were also other structures that were working with the county government. So that is the way we've been working with them, mixing and working. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Carry on.
Yeah. So the point is, the decision is entirely ours in this case. The number, and we are going to appreciate also retaining the three, because they have already had a process and presented the ideas on this process, and the leaders we are selecting at this point are interim. Once we agree on the registration tool, there's going to be another elaborate process for electing or selecting leaders who are either going to be board of trustees or board of directors. Again, using the mechanisms that are available, we are using the Chapter 6 of the Constitution to decide that step. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene, for that.
So,
Bernard, can we continue?
Yes, any other question or comment or concern? Okay, there's one. Okay.
Mine will be when Daktari spoke, he had asked on the duration, and it prompted my mind on asking a question on the people that the steering committee can constitute. Many of us are drawn from several civil society organizations within the county, and the county comes in as a stakeholder. Is the county eligible to have members of the county into the steering committee? And two, if so, what position should they hold? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? A good question. Any other question?
Bernard, could he clarify? Sorry, could he clarify the county? When he means the county, does he mean county government or?
I mean the county government leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one more question. Cynthia, before you respond.
I think on the same spirit, this is now my personal observation. Now that the 3 pre-selected are there, it is my view and my observation that the county should be the 4th, making them 4 automatic, so to speak, organizations on the interim steering committee.
Okay, thank you for that. So Cynthia, back to you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Cynthia,
Sorry?
a minute.
Just before Cynthia comes in, I don't know. We need to be guided from the county government, because even the 3, we've not met. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they proposed. And I think that in the spirit of moving forward, we need to address that so that we move together as a team, so that the other organizations coming in will not feel like they're coming in to fill a basket already that is full. I think that's what we're trying to talk about. We don't just assume that we know each other. And I think what we are saying is that let us get to know what the 3 did, so that the others can fit in the bus, so we move together. Because I think we agreed from the discussions that we are serving the same people. We're coming from the same place. The vision and mission is the same, and the people need our service. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Waziri. Cynthia, over to you and Irene.
Thank you so much for that. And Irene, feel free to also jump in with this. So the first question around the county government participating into the steering committee. At this point, I will say that at this point, we should not consider county government as part of the steering committee. And the purpose and the reason why we are saying that is because when you think about the 3-legged stools, the 3-legged stool is just a clear representation on what the different sectors in when you think about local development. So there is the county government, being the government of the place. There is the private sector who bring a different element into the whole county and local development, and then we have the civil society actors being at the other corner of it, and then having the citizen in the middle of it. So having the county government as part of the steering committee, leading into the formation might not be ideal. I from my perspective, I believe the county government is a key stakeholder that will actually support these civil society actors to come together in forming that LDO. As I think was mentioned during the launch, is that the LDO is a vehicle that brings together civil society organizations to talk about and think about some of the priorities to reduce the fragmented initiative and efforts in the county, working closely with the county government and working closely with the private sector. So I see these 3 key stakeholders as playing quite different roles, and at any given time we'll need the support of each other, rather than really having the county government as part of the steering committee. They could be part and parcel of friends of this of the steering committee to provide guidance, to provide support. So in the second question around, just what the 3 organizations proposed, I believe during the launch, USAID showed the presentation that they had on how the process the process of the LDO formation all the way to LDO application and sub-granting, to this LDO to implement some initiatives. As you can see from that process, is that as much as there were applicants who went through and submitted their concept for the APS process, they need to bring on board other civil society actors, and bringing on board civil society actors through a co-creation process. And when we mean the co-creation, it means that you come and on board, review the county itself, go through context and system analysis that Yetu team will also be supporting on, to better understand the challenges, the priorities, and what exactly the local Mwananchi is facing, and from there craft a different application that now will be funded. So as much as the three applicants had a proposal of some concept of things, of initiatives that they want to implement, there has to be built on by the other civil society actors. So once the LDO has been formed, going through the whole process of getting to understand the county and determining the common agenda. From there, the team will establish which initiative, which priority they want to, apply as an LDO towards the USAID granting. So yes, we will definitely provide a space where we better understand each other, including the three institutions and what they propose. But at the same time, let's remember that we are going to co-create what initiative as a county you'll be implementing. Irene, please come in on this also. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Irene.
I hope the energy levels are still up. I was able to have a cup of tea when Cynthia was talking, so I'm hoping yours is up as well. Let me go back to the role of the county government and the reasons why the county government does not sit in the interim committee. Even Pamela at the beginning, when she was opening, she actually mentioned three things. That the LDO now, during the co-creation process, even when it's formed, is going to communicate, is going to cooperate, is going to coordinate with the county government. And I think it's very important to appreciate that we will support the interim committee to make very targeted and very clear updates to the county government, as well as do a lot of consultation with the county government, so that at least the work can be complete and full in every sense. So even as much as Cynthia has explained the three-legged stool, that's the image you always have when you talk about development. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Irene.
Yes. So there is to emphasize that it's going to be close coordination, very regular communication, and with the county government, because there's going to be even modeling the way the LDO will work with the county government moving forward. Now, coming back to the question of the three, and the discussion that started even on the first day when we had the meeting with the county governor and the whole team. The thing is, no one application was found to fully represent what USAID was looking for through this APS. And definitely, even as we work towards co-creating the organization and bringing more stakeholders, is to understand fully what the priorities are for the people of Kisii, making sure that, as Cynthia has explained, we are implementing processes that can also help us collect more information. And we are having meetings like this one, and hopefully as we move forward into the new year, we can have more face-to-face meeting and have complete conversation without breaking like we are today. And in that process, we are going to get the registration done of the co-create and get to the point that we can register an organization, as well as being able to get to a point where we can do an application to USAID. Hopefully that application is going to be funded. Pamela says all the time we shouldn't take it for granted that there's going to be funding, but we should really work as yet to. It's our mandate to support you to get to the point that you have a fundable proposal. So I think then is to then urge you to, for the benefit of the process, as we've worked with other stakeholders in the past, is to say that yes, we have 3 organizations that were pre-selected. Let me put it there. Then the pre-selection does not necessarily give them any upper hand in terms of this process. In fact, we are leveling the ground and saying it's a process that then we start working together as Kisii stakeholders led by the interim committee to start looking at the best way we can be able to mobilize the community, get a complete buy-in from the grassroots to the top, agree on the vision of this organization, agree on the structure, agree on the registration mechanism, and then get registered. And as soon as we can, be able then to start talking about putting a proposal together for funding by USAID. So I hear you, Madam Wasili, and request that we consider this as an important point, because we need to agree before we can even move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Any other reaction? Yes. Dr. Kinani, then we have...
Thank you very much for the presentation and the issues that you have so well articulated in trying to explain what the LDO is all about. This is a process of consultation where we need to co-create, that's the terminology we have been using, an inclusive process where we discuss together, bearing in mind that as much as possible we take note of the fact that counties are unique, and there are certain considerations we have to take into account to ensure that whatever we are putting in place is going to succeed at the end of the day. We would wish to benefit from your explanation on what type of model you are using in terms of deciding who participates and who does not participate at that level. We would have wished that it would have been a discussion and not a presentation of decisions already made. We would also wish to benefit from the experience elsewhere, whether this is the same thing that has been adopted in other counties where you are operating. I tried very carefully to listen to what the role of the county government is. I did not succeed. I would wish that you again elaborate on that so that these members here know exactly what their role is as far as this process is concerned. We wish also to know what will be the meeting point. At what stage does whatever the LDO is doing touch base with what the county government is doing? County government has a mandate of providing services to members of the public, legal mandate, which definitely it will not continue performing that role. in line with the PFM Act, which says any resources that are to be appropriated or spent at the county, whether national, from the national government or from the county government level, have to go through a process. And indeed, we had hoped that this process was going to ensure that we do not have duplication of resources, even activities, that we would have a common front where we spend, where we carry out development programs. The past has been rather disappointing. You find that various organizations are carrying out activities, duplicating activities, even the county government duplicating what other development partners are doing, development LDOs, NGOs. And that has been an area where resources have been improperly utilized. Somebody claiming they are the ones who did activity A because it has been done, yet it's somebody else who funded it. We thought we would have a system where we all know that actually this project was done by A and not B, to ensure that those resources and the members of the public now can even take responsible governance. This has been our challenge, and that's why we were excited that we are coming up with a system whereby those duplications will be a thing of the past. Even right now at the county level, there are some roads which we do as a county, and then somebody else, another arm of government is given money. One of them does it, the other one pockets the money. But the road has been done. This is what we wanted to avoid. So we'd wish to know, at what point do we come together so that in our planning and in our allocation of resources, we are not duplicating what somebody else is doing. And that's why we had hoped very sincerely that even if in other counties it has not been the practice that the county government is involved, the county government has the legal mandate of delivering services for members of the public. They have to account for whatever resources come there. And we had hoped together now with the civil society, we can be more accountable. So the area of how do we plan when we do our annual plan, do we budget these resources, who accounts for what, who does what, we need to be careful that we ensure that we work together as a team. If you are leaving the county government aside, tell us then what role will the county government perform in this endeavor. Because even the last time I asked a question, we are creating an umbrella organization to take over the function of the county government or to work together with the county government. And these three that have been selected, if leadership, and I'm not saying this because I'm from the county government, but good advice, it would be good to have a neutral person so that those who came in early are not given an undue advantage, because there are other organizations which are not on board yet. And you know the politicking and what happens. We want to ensure that it's all inclusive and nobody has an undue advantage. Secondly, we need to be very sure that those organizations are actually local, because we have said local, right? So if we are going local, let us make sure also that those organizations really are local. So so let's open this discussion. Let us not predetermine, let us not close, but let us have the discussion and agree on how we are going to do the Kisii LDO process. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me also make my comments. As you notice, from the sentiments of Daktari and also the minister, it's like we really need to bring together the parties, especially the civil societies, other non-state actors, and the state actors. We bring them to a point of contact. Perhaps I start with introduction. My name is Aleshadra Kasuma. I chair the board of the Kisii Humanitarian Program, which is a national NGO that has been operating for the last 15 years. I'm also a representative of the National NGO Council, Southwestern Kenya region. Ideally, from the start of devolution, when the county governments came into being, we have not had a clear relationship between the civil society movement and the county government. And even now, it's difficult for the county government to identify how many civil societies working in the county and playing what role. This is an opportunity in the formation of this LDO. It has presented a very good opportunity for the civil societies and the non-state actors to meet with the county government representatives and kind of fuse together, come together and work as a team, because non-state actors cannot work in isolation without the support from the county government. And indeed, this is the opportunity we have to get the county government departments and the key staff to be close to the non-state actors in the proposed LDO, so that we can hold them accountable on some certain things that will be happening, so that we don't be seen to be working in isolation. I had an example when we were to carry out some projects which were cutting across about 3 departments in the county government. And whenever I went to seek assistance from the county government department, it's like I was introducing the civil society movement afresh in every department I go. This is really an opportunity for us to get a clear way on how we carry out our activities with our county government closely with us, so that we can succeed in our activities that we will be carrying out. And indeed, it may be difficult to carry out activities without the involvement of the county government. And therefore, Madam Gitinji, it's important you clarify fully, because here you have seen the county government officials have expressed from their sentiments the fear. And you mentioned in the presentation, we don't want to polarize. The leaders we are choosing are those who will not polarize the system. And already I can see it has started. So kindly, at this point in time, let us be very clear and embrace one another as a team, so that when the civil society or non-state actors want a certain service where the county government is supposed to assist, we clearly know we go to this office and our concerns are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There are 2 more hands. Then we close and we can agree on a way forward.
Nikiongelea hilo jambo kidogo. First, let me start by saying that ingekuwa ideal, we are not fighting with the county government. In fact, this project tunafanya kwa watu ambao ni wa huku. Sasa county government, mimi nadhani kulingana vile ningeona, it could have been fine kama wangekuja kama ex official, sababu wapo. At the same time, this consortium we are not making for USAID only. There are other opportunities zenye zitakuja UNAID Global Fund. So we can also find another person to meet hata queen from the private sector akuwe kama ex official. Sijui mbona county government ikuwe nje. Lakini vile tusikue run na county government, hapo ndio shida ingekuwa. Sababu kwa naenda kukua kama watchdogs na tuko nao pamoja, sioni kama kungekuwa na uwazi. Another thing, daktari amesema that kungekuwa na mtu from outsider, ndio hizi groups tatu ambazo zili apply isiende kuonekana ni kama kuna mapendeleo. Kwa sasa nikisema siko bwana kutumia hili jina, hata wale watu ambao wali apply na wakapita wamenyamaza, wengine wamekuja ndani sababu ni kitu ilikuwa kwa public, kwa domain, people did concepts. Sasa tuvumiliane tu. Hiyo ni kama unajua uko na mtoto kwako na mnapenda kukula nyama, and then mgeni akuje, hiyo siku useme wacha tusikule nyama, ndio akirudi risawa asiende kusema tunakulanga nyama kila siku. Reality ni kwamba watu they did proof concepts zikapita na wako na hiyo opportunity, walikuwa ni wao. Kuna kitu Ricky anasema, mimi ningefikiria kama hizi groups tatu lazima zipo, zingepewa hizo opportunities tatu. County government ikuje ndani kama ex officio na from the private sector, and then ndio tuone maybe ni constituency gani iko represented, because hatuendi kufanya kazi hapa town center. Tunaweza kuwa town center, kuna Bomachoge, kuna wapi. Tuone kama kuna watu wanaweza kuwa watu wale from those ndio tuweke balance. Sasa mimi naona at least tukifanya hivi itakuwa vizuri zaidi kuliko tuanze hatuko hapa kupingana, tuko hapa kunini pamoja. Last thing, kuna kitu nilipata juu ya the local, what makes a group a local. Penye inafanya kazi ama penye imetoka sijui. Sasa hivi inaweza kuwa na group ikuwe na mizizi, nianza kufanya kazi Homa Bay. I'm helping the people of Homa Bay. Siko ubaya sababu watu Homa Bay ndio mimi nimeandika kazi wanafanya kazi. Kama kuna group kamoja ama mbili ziliandika na watu wenye wameandika wanafanya kazi kwa hizo maofisi ni watoto hapa Kisii ama ni mayouth wa Kisii, pia kuna na opportunities, wacha wapewe tu wafanye. Lakini ikifika wakati wa implementation, basi zile groups ambazo zipo zenye ziko hapa ndani kuleta pamoja zikuwe ni watu wa hapa ndani, mayouth hapa ndani. Thank you.
So as you give an opportunity to the other person, maybe allow me to note just 2 things. I think the question that has brought this discussion up is the question that I asked, and I think I foresaw this thing coming, because you see, at some point, Dr. Kenani has been persistent in asking the same question in our previous 3 meetings, and he's never got an answer. And I believe because we are here for COP, it will be prudent that we set everything straight so that we know what role we as non-state actors are going to play and to what extent. And then what role is the government going to play and to what extent. For instance, we have been working with Keeping Alive Society's Hope for the last 2 years now. And our point of meeting with the county government was the Office of Director of Public Participation. And every time we need a report on any sector, we do not go to that sector, we go to the Office of Public Participation, we get that information from there, and the reports that we were submitting every month would go through the same office so that it can reach the executive. What the question that he asked about which point we're going to meet as the government and the civil society organization, I think should be well elaborated so that the moment we go ahead, we start now the process of saying we're going to do the elections or we're going to select the interim committee, we know which grounds each organization stands. And so maybe to respond to that point of where we meet, first, I believe, as Amicia said, we did not come here. Out of the 3 organizations that zilikuwa pre-selected, each of us belong to a certain consortium, either Kikai, ama cash ama the life skills promoters. I believe hakuna mtu mwenye amekuja hapa without being invited by that mother organization. So hatujakuja hapa tuseme that kuna new organizations that have been brought on board that will feel they are out of place. And if there is, I'd wish that because we talked of inclusivity in the first place, we ensure that we include everyone, because all of us are working for the common interest of the Kisii people, so that with time, hii story tunaambiwa that Nakuru imetangulia ama Makueni imetangulia, I believe Kisii stands a better chance to be at the top na kuwa beat within the shortest time possible. Asanteni sana.
Yes.
Bernard?
Okay, my question is, I believe everyone who is here belongs to an organization, even the representatives from the county government. Now my question is, what of the county government representatives who are in the room but also belong to different organizations which are included in the Kisii LDO? Would they be able to steer the committee as the representatives of the organization but not of the county government?
Thank you for that. So Irene, back to you to respond to the issues that have been raised.
Thank you. One of the things I was trying to do is reach out to Pamela, and I think I'm happy to see she's on board. She has rejoined because of the questions that have been raised by Dr. Kinani and of course Madam Edna and all of you. Pamela, welcome. The key thing that we have been discussing in the last while is the question around the role of course we had a discussion on the qualities of the interim committee, and we are yet to discuss who these are going to be. And so the question arose, what is the role of county government? Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. What is the role of the county government? Is it possible to have the county as part of the interim committee? And then the second question is on the three pre-selected applicants and the perceived undue advantage of them being part of the interim committee, and the question to some extent on how local these organizations are. I'll give you a chance, Pamela, to speak, but I want to use a question Dr. Kinandi raised regarding at what point do we meet, and I'll use the Makueni County. Makueni has an elaborate civic and public participation structures on the ground. And I do know that maybe there is information available on that publicly. And what we have in our work within Makueni is that our home and our anchor is the Directorate of Public Participation and Civic Education within the Ministry of Devolution, Administration and Service. And one of the things that we do is that we work very closely with that directorate. In fact, we meet on a very regular basis. Sometimes we meet weekly, depending on what needs to be done. There's a technical committee made up of USAID, YETU, and the county government. And we actually consider interventions and activities, and of course, coordinate very closely with the interim committee. So that is an example of how closely we are working with the county government in Makueni. And the point that I had emphasized is the issue of communicating, cooperating, and coordinating activity. Although we haven't gotten to the point where we are saying that we are writing a proposal because we're not registered yet in Makueni, right now we are carrying out public participation activity, and the public participation activity is being coordinated by the Directorate of Public Participation with the YETU team and of course the interim committee. So those are the examples of the point at which we meet. So while the county government in Makueni is not part of the interim committee, it is part of each and every activities that we are implementing. And in fact, we have very close coordination with that. And I think that has actually provided a model in which we would really want to keep, because the activities and everything that we're doing are quite sustainable in that we work with the ward level administrator and civic educators. We work with the sub-county sub-county administrators and civic educators. We report to the directorate itself in terms of what we are doing on a regular basis. And of course, the interim committee in itself is very closely linked to everything that we're doing in terms of that activity. But I think then the most important thing is to say we need to have a conversation so that we don't have any outstanding concerns as we move forward. The second question is in terms of the pre-selected applicants. The concept that they put together is not necessarily what we are going to take forward. And I think this needs to be extremely important. Once we do social mobilization, we are going to hear proposals from the village, from the ward to wherever we are. And that is going to inform, one, the vision and the priorities of this LDO, immediate and long term. Number two, the structure through which we communicate and engage them going forward. And three, the instrument, the vehicle that gets to be registered as the organization itself. So I do believe that while we are talking about the three and some level of advantage, I have seen that the co-creation process moves away from what was proposed to what is actually being lived experience in terms of the things that are happening. But I invite Pamela Wasonga, you're here to give your view and also say that it is very important that at this point we agree so that we can do two things. One, we can create trust in this process, and two, we can always remain flexible to the county realities. I think for us as year two, that is the point I would want to emphasize. Thank you. Pamela, can you hear me? Bernard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Maybe I'm not communicating.
Loud and
with Pamela.
clear.
Okay, thank you. Can you prompt Pamela and see whether she's able to hear us?
Pamela, can you hear us? Pamela?
I will raise her on the phone. Maybe in the meantime, you can take some any additional reaction to what I've just said as I raise her on the phone.
All right. Any reactions as we wait for Pamela?
Thank you again. As I said, we need to take into account the unique positions of conditions of prevailing in various counties. And again, you have given us an example of Makueni, where you have said the county is not a member of the steering committee. I wish to bring to your attention that the expectation was that the county, Kisii County, was going to be part of that process, just like other members have indicated, that we create a forum. And this was going to be a grand opportunity where both the public and non-state meet, chart out government programs, carry out M&E together and ensure that there's no duplication. And I am still raising the concern that, just like my colleague said here, that we need to start right. That we start right in ensuring that even if you're saying that those who have been invited here were through some invitation of, I don't know whether it was just the 3 were invited. I did raise concern much earlier that we have already received a complaint in our offices of some of our local, I don't want to call them development organizations, but they are anyway, they are development organizations local, who did not have the opportunity to submit their proposals, but who would wish to be part of this process, so that we ensure that they are also brought on board. And again, once more, if indeed this is an activity we are doing transparently and together, we ensure, because you see, if you're going to create a legal entity, we don't want to create an opportunity for us to get challenged later on when they say, who are these organizations? Like a background check would have been necessary. I know some have seen they are really, yes, they are local, but we need to be completely certain that we have also brought this thing to the local organizations and that they are given a chance. Even if it's at the initial stage, let us start right. And I hope we have not closed this conversation, that we are going to have this conversation further. And if need be, it could easily be escalated to our principals so that they are in agreement. Because we recommend, I don't think at this stage at our level, we can decide. I think we'll recommend, we'll convey these decisions to our principals so that we get their concurrence. My colleague would wish to make a few comments.
Thank you, Dr. Just for us who are here, I wanted to make a clarification. I had members' comments, especially the other one at the corner, who could be belonging to those 3, the super 3, is that the county government whatsoever, we don't have an interest. We're just here to ensure that we improve. I think humanity, the best principle in humanity is to learn from the mistakes, grow, invent, and become better. I want to take this opportunity to applaud the members of the civil society I've seen here. I've seen Jackie, I've seen Makubamba, I know what you've been doing. And I think that is the basis that Dr. is saying, that we know our own. We know those who have been doing things here. And that does not mean that we have people who are not our own. So what we're saying is that the gaps, I can say, as I'm working in the county government in the Department of Administration, there's been a disconnect. Disconnect in that you're doing very good things, but maybe the Department of Administration does not know. I remember what he said, Asuma, he said that he got problems when he was trying to implement, doing good things, but going from one office, wasting time to introduce and do all those things. Those are the gaps you want to fill, so that we give service delivery to the people. And you can see from what Governor guided, I think when USAID team was here, is that he formed a committee. We were so many of us, all the cabinet members were there, and then we started working with Pamela, Kinashira, and all those people before even the year 2 and the other implementing agencies came in. And then later he leaned and appointed, the governor himself appointed Dr. here to be our focal person. I am here because I'm the CEC for administration, the department that is manned with the devolved units, the ward administrators you've talked about, they work under me, to the smallest level of a ward. And then the stakeholder management, and civic education. Public participation is under administration, where I'm the CC, and you can see here the chief officer, Mr. Kambuni, is here. We've come even with an officer, a communication officer. You've seen Lilian here, who has been very, very key in doing the communication. What governor wants is that, are we able to come together and ensure that the resources that we have in the basket try to reach the people so that we don't duplicate? And I think you should be able to approach that as stakeholders and the civil society members who are here. So what I wanted to let the people know and set the record straight, that we're not trying to fight, and we don't want to control what you are doing. We want to offer we want to offer ourselves to you as to help you navigate through the challenges that you can go through, so that you give service delivery to the people. We want to support the whole process. And I know that even as we go forward, that is going to be our role. Next, I wanted, this is to Irene and the team, is we be specific like the way Dr. has presented. That is good, we answer the two key issues that have come up. You've said that in Makueni, the county government is not in the interim, but you've seen that there is collaboration and you're walking the journey together. I wanted to know, how do you go about it? If they are not in the picture in any way, how come that they're in touch to know the activities going on? Because if that one is not spelled out correctly, there is going to be a disconnect like what has been happening. So we want to be guided, and based on this, we could wish that maybe you can allow us to get to know what the other counties have done. The other thing is the 3 groups. We want you to come out clearly, because when one member talked, he talked about eating meat and what, still it needs to be clear. And this is not to hurt the county government, but just assuring the other stakeholders who are here that they are part of this journey. Those 2 things, if you answer them, I think we'll move forward.
Over to you, Irene and Pamela. Have we got Pamela as yet?
Pamela, are you on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, everyone. In the beginning, I would hear everything because I was on the road, but I'm happy I've reached the house so I can settle and respond to issues. So before I lost connection, Irene, you are responding to the questions raised by the county government, and there were 3 that you had. There are 3 that you had requested me to respond to. So by way of recap, I think I had there's an issue of they would like to know the authenticity of the 3 selected organizations. They would also like to know whether the 3 have a due advantage over the others, and then the role of the county government. So that's where I left, and then I lost a bit of communication, but when I rejoined, Mheshimiwa Edna was speaking to even some of the things now I want to respond to. So let me start with the easier one. So the easier one is the authenticity of the 3 selected. So for us as USAID, we were looking at a local organization as one which is either born and bred in Kisii or has activities in Kisii. So we're just using a simple way of explaining if they have activities or tangible activities in the county, then that can pass as a local organization and a local entity within the county. So what we were avoiding was to see someone just having post office box somewhere in Kisii and they're not doing anything. So that's one way we were defining a local organization, and that's how we are looking at authentically there. And then the other one is the most obvious. They should be born and bred and still working in Kisii County. Then the issue of due advantage of the 3 pre-selected, I think Irene addressed most of it, but I'll just again like to reiterate some of the things that Irene said. So to begin with, all the concepts that came to USAID, yes, we pre-selected them, but we just pre-selected them because we saw they have a small idea about the LDO we are talking about. But it doesn't mean that once the LDO is formed, we'll go back and look at those concepts. No. So this process has already overtaken the concept they had given to USAID. And as Irene has explained, once you've done social mobilization, once the organizations that will be on the table have gone through the nitty-gritties of registering an organization and they get an LDO into place, then the next thing, USAID will prompt them now to put in an application. And now that is the time where we want to see all those things they are applying, whether they are in tandem with the priorities of the county government. So that idea of due advantage will not arise in this process. If anything, they are doing far much more than any other organization, because we are asking them to be part of a steering committee, and we are asking them to help with the mobilization, and we are asking them to be with us through the thinking of how to develop a good LDO within Kisii County. So, but when the rubber meet the road, like now, probably USAID has money and we need an application. That application will not look at any concept that had come to us, but will expect that now the LDO, which will include everyone, even the ones that have not come on the table, their ideas will be in the application. So I hope we've beaten the drum of due advantage. Now, when it comes to the role of the county government, and maybe here will give me time to explain a few things on how. Good, thanks. So is that better now?
Yes, it is. Carry on.
Oh, so for the role of the county government, and I said I will start by giving a bit of a story in the sense that USAID, just like the government, normally develops a CIDP. We don't call it CIDP, we call it a CDCS, which is the country development cooperation strategy, but in short, it's just a strategy to guide our work for 5 years. So the new guidance will run between the year 2020 to the year 2025. Within that strategy, our aim is to make sure that we are working with the critical key stakeholders within the country. And so for that, we want to see USAID working very closely with the government, both county and national. We want to see USAID working closely with the private sector, and we want to see USAID working very closely with the civil society organizations. Now, sometimes these three can be together, and sometimes these three can be independent. So when it comes to working closely with the county government, that's where we are doing the sector annexes, and I'm sure Mheshimiwa Edna and Dr. Kenani and Lillian are understanding what I'm talking about. So we sit together, we do a work plan, we look at, we share resources, and there are many other ways we'll continue working with the county government very closely. We'll monitor together, we'll implement together, because we are commingling our money to make sure that at least we have something delivered for the people of Kisii County. So that's how we look at working with the county government. When it comes to private sector, and again, Mheshimiwa Edna, Dr. Kenani and others know that we've already done an analysis of the private sector within Kisii County. We worked closely with the county government, and going forward, if USAID gets money, then we'll do an investment around the private sector. Now, civil society is where now we are speaking, and that is the reason why most of us are in this meeting today. And that is where now we are looking at the local development organization. So, in the beginning, I had said that we'd really wish to have a local development organization that coordinates, collaborates, cooperates, and in general works very closely with the county government. But we'd also love to have a civil society organization that to some extent is independent of government. So going forward, what is now the role of the county government in the LDO process? So just like Irene had said, we want, and we do not want USAID to go and mobilize civil society in Kisii, and then one day we come to the governor's office or to the county government office and tell the county government that here is an LDO. We don't want to do that. We want the county government to be part of the process. And this is where probably when we sit on boards, this is where we see ex-official members or non-voting members, but they are there, they are seeing, they are listening, they are helping us, they are giving ideas. So that's where we see, for me, that's how I see the role of the county government, in that when the steering committee will be formed, the county government will be there as an observer. Everything that when the mobilization will be happening, the county government will be there giving ideas, observing, but they will not be, we don't expect the county government to be part now like so there are two things which I'm looking at. There is the process of forming the LDO, which is right now we are in the process because we don't have an LDO yet. So I'm envisioning two roles of the county government. So during this process of forming the LDO, we want the county government to just do what Edna said when I was joining the meeting, support the process, but not control it. Be there. And that's why we are giving you a chance, even once the steering committee has been formed, we want to see a county government person or county government people walking the talk with the LDO, with the secretariat, but they will not be like voting or members will be registered on that. When mobilization is happening, we want the county government to be there to see, to ensure that all wards have been covered or all villages have been covered, whichever side will decide to slice Kisii County. And then when the LDO is formed, we expect to see, now let's say supposing, so when the LDO is formed, again, the first thing we want to see is in case USAID gives Kisii County or LDO County a chance to apply for funding, the ideas in the application should be ideas that the county government is comfortable with. There should be ideas that are in the CIDP. There should be ideas that are in the annual plan for the county government. And there should be ideas that the voices of people in Kisii have spoken about. So we want to see participation of everyone, all stakeholders in the application. So that is the other role I see. And then when the LDO starts work, now, if in case USAID gives the LDO money, the LDO could even give some of the money to the county government to run some activities which civil society may not be good at. So the county government can be a sub-grantee of the LDO. When the LDO is strong enough, even the county government can once in a while, instead of getting other people to offer services within the county government can also task or give money to the LDO to do work in Kisii County. So I don't know, I know I'm talking so much and coming into a meeting that I've missed a lot, but I would like to stop there and hope that I've tried to address some of the issues that you've raised. And I'm really sorry I couldn't get time to participate in the whole process the whole day. Thank you, and back to you, Irene.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Irene.
Great. Thank you, Pamela. I think you've come to very critical time and responded to the key issues. I just want to reiterate my example of Makueni and also emphasize that we remain flexible and happy to work within the context. Makueni, I said that we have the county government through the Directorate of Public Participation and administration as key part of the team that we work with. And I said that we normally have meetings. In fact, we normally have two meetings. One meeting is before we have a meeting even with the interim committee, and they are part and parcel of the meetings that we have with the interim committee. We plan together. We even review budgets of the activities we're implementing together. In some cases, they have been able to co-fund some activity depending on the priorities on their work plan. And definitely as we move forward, one of the things that I said, mobilizing for meetings, right now we are doing social mobilization, is the ward administrators and civic educators. Those are not employees of YETU, they are just employees of the government, and they are usually tasked by their superiors to work, of course, with the interim committee. So I think I was answering the point of the meeting that we've had a very clear process in which we are holding meeting as the CLT, USAID, as YETU, and the Makueni team, so that at least we are clear on the activities we are implementing, and we are also working in close collaboration and coordination and communication with the county government. Again, that word ex officio that Pamela has introduced was also raised on the floor. So it's not a new word, Pamela, thank you for saying that. But I think that one of the speakers, sorry, I cannot remember the name, had actually talked about ex officio role, of the county government. And so we welcome that opportunity for exploring ways we can work. Back to you, Bernard,
Thank you.
to give us advice on how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. And thank you, everybody, for the questions and concerns. Dr. Kenani has something to add. Over to you, Doctor.
Sorry, we are losing Dr. Kinani.
Yeah, we can't hear.
Dr. Kinani?
Oh, okay. I'll try again. Okay. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
listened very carefully, and I managed to pick two roles for the county government. I hope I'll be able to be assisted to get others. I managed to capture two. One is that of being an observer in the steering committee and support the process. That needs to be explained. What type of support is anticipated? We are relegating a constitutionally elected government to the role of observer in matters related to development within the county government. One would have expected that since the major role of this body we want to create is development, to develop the county, to bring development to the people of the county, that the constitutionally elected body entity to do that would be part and parcel of that and not just an observer. Indeed, we want to ensure that we work together. I don't want to say that the county government has the exclusive responsibility of developing the county, because even the Constitution says that in that process you should involve and encourage the active participation of the people of the communities who are going to be impacted by whatever you are proposing as development. So one would have expected that even the county government, which has that legal and constitutional mandate, participates in that process. We stand the risk of having the county government stand by and maybe even say they are not interested. Let's watch that that does not happen. It would be prudent to have them directly involved so that we walk this walk together. And as I said, let's keep this discussion open, even if it is working in Machakos, rather in Makueni. We have already requested that we discuss with our counterparts there how this process is working. We are in that process still. And very soon, I'm sure the Council of Governors is going to make a ruling on how it's going to engage with the USAID in terms of the American government having made a decision in terms of how they are going to start channeling their resources and involvement of county government. Because that's what they have said. They're going to work with county governments. And working with the county governments does not mean that county governments are just observers. They need to be active participants in this process. Hitherto, civil society has been complaining that they have been observers. And now, we don't want to go back and say, now the others will start crying foul. No, we want to work together. I thank you.
Thank you, Daktari.
Yeah, so I think you'll give me a chance. Daktari, I'm really sorry. You know, English is my third language. Maybe observer was not the correct word to use in this process, because listening to the experience of Makueni, I think we are all speaking to the same thing. It's only that what we're avoiding is when it comes to registration and we list out members of the people who will register the LDO, the county government will not be like one of the participants. But it doesn't mean that in a meeting or in a situation that the county government will not talk, they'll not give ideas. So maybe I retract the word observer and leave to better English speakers to give a better description of the role of the county government. So Irene, I think maybe you are better in than me. So over to you to explain the role of the county government without using the word observer, because I think it's not, that's not exactly, it's not like a non-participant observer just standing in the room and observing. That's not what I meant. So Dr. I'm retracting that word and requesting for better English to describe that relationship. And I also like some of the things Dr. is talking about, whereby the Council of Governors is making a ruling on how USAID will channel resources. So these are things, of course, beyond, we make jokes here in USAID, we say that is beyond my pay grade, but to